right now too. Okay, we've called the meeting to order. We've taken roll and all the trustees are present. And we are meeting virtually tonight under exceptions to the Open Meetings Act on the basis of Governor Pritzker's executive orders concerning the COVID emergency. And my determination as village president that it is not practical or prudent to meet in person at this time. Accordingly, this meeting will be conducted virtually with board members participating through the Zoom platform. One or more village officials are present at Village Hall. I am present at Village Hall during this meeting as required by the Open Meetings Act. Public comment may be emailed to the village at the web address shown on the agenda. There will be no use of the chat function because the chat function is not captured on audio to create a record of the meeting. So with having said that, if I could ask our village attorney to discuss the appropriations hearing, please. Where'd he go? Bruce?
He's not there anymore.
I liked his background.
Yeah,
Oh, he's calling.
here he is. I got him.
Hi, Bruce.
I just did it. I just saw him. He's coming.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay,
sorry about that.
sorry,
Take it, Bruce.
it said recording and it said leave meeting and I left the meeting. I
No,
think
no.
that was the wrong choice.
Wrong choice, wrong choice. Or right
Wrong
choice.
choice.
Hard to know. Please continue. Thank you.
So we called the roll. We're starting the hearing on the appropriation ordinance. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. This is an annual ordinance that the village adopts. It sets the maximum spending authority for each of the major funds of the village. Remember, the village has the general fund for which most of the administrative operations occur. The building department is in the general fund. Woodland projects are in the general fund. We also have water fund and the sewer fund, which are independent enterprise funds. We have 2 TIF funds and a capital projects fund. And under each fund, we have line items with many descriptions of particular expenditures and matters, salaries, insurance, projects that the village wants to undertake, payments that we make to various third parties. And if you look through the appropriation ordinance, it will have in one column, it had the budgeted amount that was the village board adopted as an estimated budget for the village. And the appropriation amount is generally 15% higher than the budget. This gives us a little spending room in case we underestimate in a particular item. And we also have a couple of broad categories for unexpected items. We have contingency line items. We have an item called transfers out from the general fund, where we authorize transfers to the capital projects fund. And the capital projects fund itself, because of the recent change in the reserve policy, was holding 2 million. I think we've authorized additional appropriation out of that fund, including amounts that could come from the general fund if necessary, of approximately 3.5 million for unexpected or major land acquisition or other purposes that the village board has. So therefore, when you read the total appropriations number that the village is appropriating, it seems quite high, but as we say each year at this time, it's only authority to spend up to that amount. In fact, in all the years I've been representing the village, we've never come close to spending the full amount of the appropriation. But this gives us the leeway without having to have all kinds of troublesome issues with transferring between line items and other funds and doing special procedures to do that. So this is basically following the budget except for the specific transfers out and the contingency items, which are exceed the budget. And the fact that each of the line items in the appropriation is automatically increased by a percentage over the budget. So that's an overview. I don't know if Trustee Clayton wants to add anything to that.
Just a few notes. You pretty much covered what I had written down, but just a couple things. One is in the general fund, the software line 60541, we increased that more than the 15% because of the redo of the enterprise system and any unanticipated changes that might come down the pike. If anybody, Henry, for example, caught the fact that under 50180 snow removal, we had budgeted 0. and appropriated 0. And the reason for that is all of that expense was moved to the MFT fund. We had gotten an indication from Pat Glenn last year that all snow plowing could be carried on for the village snow plowing could be carried under MFT. So we moved it there. You talked about the $750,000 contingency and the $3 million contingency. The one other thing I would like to modify slightly is under the MFT fund. Carissa was kind enough today to double check the Saunders Road numbers and what we plan to spend in 2022 to finish phase 1 and to start phase 2. And I think that we need to increase what was in the packet by another $200,000. So we would go from $144,325 to $344,325. And that's pretty much any of the comments that I had at this point.
Do you know what line that's on, Mike? Or what page it's on?
Oh, God, no.
Okay. Thank you.
It's under MFT fund.
Thought I'd ask.
I printed it out and the type is so small that I can't even read it.
I think it's on page 8. I was looking at it now. Or it's page 8 in the budget document. 40 of the main document.
Okay, yeah, I see it. Thank you.
Are there any other comments? Are there questions? Is there any further discussion?
Any comments from the public on this?
If there are comments from the public, please not only unmute yourself, but please open your audio or your video rather. Okay, seeing none and hearing none. I think that might be.
Motion to close the hearing?
Motion to close the hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, no further discussion then. Roll call.
Trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander,
Aye.
trustee Jamerson,
Aye.
trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickens,
Aye.
trustee Eastman.
Aye.
Ordinance passes.
So we're closed. We've just closed
Hearing
the
is
public
closed.
hearing. And now we need, I will call to order the Board of Trustees meeting for March 15th, 2022. May I have a roll call for this meeting, please?
Trustee Clayton,
Here.
trustee Dickens,
Here.
trustee Eastman,
Here.
trustee Haber,
Here.
trustee Hollander,
Here.
trustee Jamerson.
Here.
Thank you.
And I'm here too, still. here.
President Ford.
Thank you. Okay, first item of business is the approval of minutes of the March 1st meeting. Do I hear a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, may I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickens,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Haber,
Aye. Aye.
trustee Hollander,
Aye.
trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, the next order of business is the approval of bills. Do I see a motion for the approval of bills, please?
So moved.
May I have a
Second.
second?
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion on what was in your packet?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. I'm sorry, I had them and now I lost them. I'm sorry. There's a couple perspectives. Can you fill me in on what that is? It's a membership subscription. I don't know what that is. It's line
What?
266. And then TMA of Lake Cook, which is at 424. It's on the third and fourth page of the bills. I don't know what those are.
Okay, may I take notes, please? Okay, your first question was 266, the subscription.
Yeah, to Perspectives.
Okay,
And then there was also a subscription, membership/subscription. They're both membership/subscriptions. The other one's 424 to TMA of Lake Cook.
where is, oh, here it is, TMA of Lake Cook on Baxter Parkway. Okay,
And then I had another one. I'm sorry. If you can
No,
just
no,
bear with
please.
me.
please come ahead.
I can, if you want me to, I think I can at least tell you the TMA, I believe, is the Transportation Management Association of Lake County. Is that the group of the corporate residents who try and coordinate their?
Russ, was that you?
No,
Okay, but
First he said yes, then he said no. I'm not sure whether.
I'll tell you what, how about, here's what I'm going to do. Do you have a third one there?
Yeah, I do. The other one is 187 Lake County Division of Transportation. And then the account is street lighting. And I'm wondering what that's for, because the few streetlights that we have, we contract directly with ComEd for. So unless those are traffic signals that we're paying for, and that could be, I just don't know. It's either it's miscoded or.
Okay.
So,
Let me take these questions. I will not sign those checks. I will get the answers to those questions and then I'll forward those answers to the board.
I have an answer.
Oh, trustee Dickon. I see.
I had a question. Line item 211, Mario Aguilar Landscaping. Was that for tree removal? It says other professional services.
No, I think that's Raymond. I think that's our landscaper who does work for us around around Village Hall.
Got it.
Trustee Hollander?
And Perspectives is an employee assistance program. I don't know if it's the same name.
Exactly.
Pardon.
Yes,
So
that's true.
that's maybe the bill that we're paying is for employee assistance.
Yes.
Okay, I will get answers to those checks forwarded to the, those other checks, confirm my understanding of the landscaper. And if I don't see any, if you don't answer, if there's no response to those answers, we'll let them go. I'll send them and let them go. Is that agreeable?
sounds like a plan.
Okay, with that understanding, and if there are no other questions or comments, may I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Jamerson,
Aye.
trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Haber,
Aye.
and trustee Hollander.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item of business is the Treasurer and Finance Committee report. We have a presentation this evening, and where are you, Hal? There we are, our treasurer. If I could turn this over to you, Hal, and to Danielle. And
Mhm.
I have learned how to share my screen, so I will be in control. When Danielle, when you're ready, Hal, when you're ready, I'm happy.
sure. Okay, I'll be brief in my introduction, as I won't be giving the typical report on everything, as I don't want to overlap Danielle, or she'll touch on the salient points of our current cash position, the future of the markets, the barometers, our returns, and things like that. But to introduce, obviously, as we as a village make our decisions and implement our policies, JP Morgan and Danielle and her team have been instrumental over the years. Danielle, I'm not sure how many years it's been, but it's been at least 4 or 5 or 6, if not longer.
Yeah, I think it's even longer than that. I mean, sorry, I don't know the exact thing, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
been over 6.
Yeah, so whenever we, between the parameters of what our investment limits are and, our opportunities to get the greatest yields, given our conservative nature and time limits and everything else, the availability of different investments would not be well known to anybody better than Danielle and her team. So we coordinate our efforts regularly to discuss what is our cash position, what are the needs of the village in terms of liquidity, and where is the market headed in terms of what we want to be in as far as duration and risk and those other factors. So while I give the reports of what we have done and where we're at, we would not be there without the expertise of Danielle and her team. And I won't go on much longer, but I'll turn it over to her so she can explain what she does for the village and how she coordinates things with us to get the objectives of what we want and currently where we're at, which in my opinion is a pretty formidable position, given the fact that you can't turn on a financial channel without hearing about the, I guess tomorrow's the first date, Danielle, the first interest rate hike they're expecting. And our yields will reflect that. So as you know, we snickered at the rates available. They're going to start to increase, which will be a nice return for us. And Danielle can go over the strategy that we even exchanged notes on today in the short term. So without further ado, Danielle, I'll let you take it from there.
Okay, terrific. Well, thanks, Hal. And thank you all. It has been an interesting market. You guys, we were looking just 2 months ago at rates where the 3-month bill was 10 basis points, the 6-month was 32, the 1 year was 51 basis points. I mean, today, we've just in those 2 months, we have moved from a 3-month 3-month bill is now at 44 basis points. 6-month is at 82. This is at the close today. The 1 year is at a 116. And this is actually less than 2 months. And, the change, as you guys probably all are aware, what happened was, first and foremost was the Fed announcing that, it's time to start raising rates. They're way behind, the curve. And then we had employment numbers that, just beginning of February, that no one expected employment to be as strong as it was. That was followed by the highest inflationary numbers, PPI, CPI. And so everything was all systems go. Everyone was calling for large rate hikes. Actually, some of our economists were calling for 50 basis points this meeting tomorrow. And then, 2 weeks ago, the Russian invasion. And has it deterred anything? No. Although now there's pause, for thought, because now all of a sudden what could happen, now everyone's talking about stagflation, which is never good. We're in this runaway inflation sort of situation. And then if all these companies, can't make the widgets and we can't get delivery of the widgets and the oil and, all of these precious metals and commodities are so expensive, it's in my opinion, it's a very scary time. Having been in this business for a very long time and seeing, kind of the trials and tribulations, what I'm feeling right now in this market is a lot like 08. And I feel this, and this is no one's saying 08, no one's whispering it, but there's a real liquidity crisis going on in the market right now. And I'll talk to that as I get through these slides. But, you guys know who we are. There's a team of 3 of us, myself, my partner, Mike Carney, and Dave is my assistant. We were all at Bank of Montreal prior to joining JP Morgan oh gosh, how many years now has it been? 13, 15 years or so ago?
Danielle, would you
Um,
like me to begin sharing my screen? I've got
Oh, yeah,
the
please,
bios up.
please.
Okay,
Thanks, I'm sorry.
No,
I'm looking at my screen.
okay. The trustees were sent the packet. But
Okay.
just for, I
I'm
hope,
not gonna
can you see
talk to
my
this.
screen now? Is everybody seeing my screen?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, you can see that. Okay, thank you.
So I'm not going to talk to each one of these slides. I'm just going to give you an overview and then sort of talk about direction, where your portfolio is, and then go into, the next steps perhaps. On page 2, if you could flip it, there's our interest rate forecast. This was as of Friday, March 11th. And if you just target in on, the 2-year, which as of March 11th was 175. Today, the 2-year closed at 184, to give you an idea. The 5-year was 196. It's 209 and a half, the close today. So you can see rates are moving. This looks like pretty startling how, that's a pretty significant move percentage wise based on the rate. But if you look at the Treasury asset class versus anything else fixed income, the spreads have widened pretty dramatically. And I'll kind of talk to that in the next slide. But so ultimately we were calling for 7 hikes after all these, very robust numbers. And then, Russia happened. We have not changed our call, but I think they will adjust it. I think it'll probably be, I think it's going to be meeting sensitive and number sensitive, as it should be, but I think we definitely will see 4. 5 is what I'm thinking, but I'm not an economist, but I have lived this fixed income market for a while. The next couple of slides that are colored, I'm not going to talk to. These are your state statutes. So these are the different asset classes you could buy. I could sell you. Some of them have concentration limits, and this is something that we're always aware of. And when something matures, when I talk to Hal about the portfolio, if you go to pay the next slide, 5 and 6, actually, this is what we look at. We look at a comparison of what you can buy, what you have, what you're thinking as far as cash flow needs, and what the overall market looks like. So, you guys have a lot of cash, which I'll talk to at the very end. And, the first thing you look at here is look at commercial paper. You can get 9-month commercial paper, and this is not even accurate. 9-month commercial paper today, this was as of 3/11. 9-month commercial paper was at 165 today. So if you look at that versus the 9-month Treasury bill at 86, so let's just say it closed at 90. That's a tremendous spread. And that's what I meant by this liquidity crisis that's starting to happen. Historically, that spread has been, historically low rate, we're talking a pickup of maybe 20 basis points, not where we are today, 75 basis points. And we're talking about very highly rated commercial paper. This is when we put this together on 3/11, this was JP Morgan's commercial paper, which is the highest by 2 rating services. So this worries me in here. And we'll get to that. So when you look at the 3-year comparison, this is what we've always just kind of gone along, looking at the best asset class, where you can pick up the most spread, while diversifying the portfolio. And again, you can see corporates are up there significantly, but they're continuing to widen. This has not stopped. If you're not a treasury, it's continuing to widen. And that is the same with taxable munis. Agencies are a bit of a different animal. I don't love them in here, and I can talk to that. I mean, yes, there's a pickup over treasuries, but when you're in the situation we are now, and who knows, maybe in a month things will be better, maybe in 3 months, this war will be behind us. But you don't know the exposure. I don't know the exposure. JP Morgan was one of the large counterparties on this nickel tycoon. I don't know how much money we have exposure to this nickel guy. Citibank has a huge Russian exposure. Nowhere have they told us what kind of exposure that is. So why would I sell you highly rated JP Morgan, highly rated Citi, when I don't, I think we don't know the answer yet. So I don't feel comfortable doing that right now, just because of all of these things. And I'm not unique. This is what all of the money managers, the large money managers, are exactly thinking. There's just too much out there that is unknown. Everybody knows everything about, who's doing what with what, but you really don't know until quarterly reports, et cetera, what's going on with some of these larger companies. So that's why I'm leery about going into some of those asset classes. CDs are pretty much right on treasuries. CDs are great when you have a significant pickup. I've never loved CDs unless you can get a much higher yield, because they're fairly illiquid. You've got a small little piece of a CD, and in a volatile market, they're hard to get out of. So if you look at, or you can get out of them, but it's at what cost? If you look at the portfolio now, we're on, the pie. I don't even know what page this is. I'm sorry. Oh, here you go. You got it up there.
7.
Yeah, we see the pie.
All right, you got the pie. So I normally don't put this with, Hal's, because I thought we should look at this cash. We should do something with this cash, and we should talk about it. We were so poised to kind of get going again, and maybe, go out a year, 18 months, kind of get our feet wet, because your portfolio is pretty short. But when I look at your cash position now, I'm thinking in your overall portfolio, let's just go over it here. It's almost 11 million. You've got a weighted average yield to maturity of 84 basis points, with an average life of 1.09 years. And that's the current benchmarks right there at the bottom: 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. Again, they're a little bit higher right now. Obviously, your portfolio looked great, and then all of a sudden rates started ratcheting up, and now we're a little bit behind the curve, which can be easily fixed by going into some of these asset classes and maybe going out a couple of years. But that's not what I would recommend in here. If you go on to the next page, it gives you this is just your investments here. It's just the same thing, kind of regurgitated. We do not sell anything early. Everything you have is, it's sort of a sleep at night type credit. I don't see any need to sell an asset. We're not anticipating, a Puerto Rico type scenario or something that we'd want to sell early. I guess the only reason we might sell something early would be maybe if you had a large cash need that we had to sell. So that's why we always look at that yield to worst cost versus market. Because market values have gone down, so it's going to show you a higher yield, but you would look at that yield to worst cost because this is a buy and hold portfolio. We're not trading. Any questions so far?
Danielle, can I just reiterate there just a little bit about like where we're at right now? Today we talked about it too, is that yes, it might be a great time to be cash, but Danielle suggested that we kind of put the cash to work even in a short-term situation, very short-term in the treasury market as we start to take advantage of these increase in rates. And I think for two purposes, echoing what she said, one, safety, because nobody knows where the risks are in corporates and outside of the stable investments. But we may know in 2 months, 3 months, but you also during that period of time are probably going to have a little bit more inflationary fears, which might drive up the rates too. So we're poised to take advantage of that and ladder the portfolio as that happens by keeping 40% of our money safe in the short term.
Yes, that's what I am recommending. If you look at page 9, I took some notes here. That is your current portfolio without the cash. So 50% of your portfolio is maturing within the year. And Hal and I just a couple of weeks ago, we did some treasury bills. You've got another 35% coming due in that 1 to 2 year range, and just a small amount, 980,000 coming due 2 years, 2 to 3. You're well positioned for this market, and that was always the case. It was really hard to go out with rates being as bad as they were. And in hindsight, I mean, sitting on cash and having rates go to where they are, I mean, look, even not investing, you're going to, just by doing this treasury bill ladder, we're going to be higher than you were in this money market and then some, so that's the one significant point, is that you are well poised for this market. So your current cash is at 4,470,386.99. This was as of yesterday, so I didn't even check your balance this morning. So the first thing when we look at, cash obviously is, and that's what I'm throwing out to you guys. I mean, do you have any potential cash flow needs? Should we, match that to a need? And I'll do that sometimes with other government entities where all of a sudden they do have something that they're going to have to pay for, buses or something,
Danielle, this might be a good time for me to stop screen sharing so we can discuss.
Yeah, because this is discussion. Perfect. Yeah, please. Perfect.
Okie dokie. Now I can see everyone.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions for Danielle or observations for Trustee Haber, please?
So I'm just wondering, the cash, I presume, is uninvested. So there's really no return unless it's in a money market. It's
in a money market earning, like 0.01 or 0.02, something like that.
So effectively zero, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So how much of the yield, what do you think that is in the yield that we're losing as a result of the $4 million that's not being invested?
Well, let's look at the next, if you have your packet, can you just look at the next slide?
Sure.
You don't have to put it up there, Chris.
No, I've got it.
Okay. So, and again, I'm ultra conservative. I mean, that's just how I roll. And munis have always been what I've done my whole career, starting at Naveen. So this is what I'm recommending, that we do a short ladder, 3, 4, 5, 6. We could go a little longer. We could go, 6, 7, 8, 9, to pick up some yield. But keeping dry powder, not, with the uncertainty right now in the market, I think this is not a bad way to go.
So basically, you're saying though, that if you look at that ladder, we're losing probably on average about 50 basis points.
Yes, yep, 59 if we did this, right now. And this is just using 4 million, okay? And this is over a 4.5 month weighted average life.
And my comment to that is, yes, if you look at now, sitting in cash would not be advantageous.
No,
From where we were, had we been laddered out at the rates over the past year or 2 years, where we didn't have these maturities and we didn't have the cash, we probably have a bigger gap of what we can now, make up for by investing now versus if we had been locked into 2-3 years at, I don't remember what the rates were, but next to nothing.
they were very low, under 1. There was nothing over 1% at all.
Danielle has made a couple of comments here that I'd like to add to, and one is that we've got a volatile market going on. It's uncertain. If there is a liquidity crisis, who knows what's coming. I think a good approach would be, as Danielle suggested, just a moderate approach to the market. We do have to stay short. We are constrained as to what we can invest in by state statute. And this is akin to dollar cost averaging. I don't think it's ever a good idea to react to markets immediately, because again, we've got some very uncertain times. We have corporate America, and you don't know exactly how all of this is going to affect them now, because there's a great deal of international income that's going to be cut off. So we don't know how that's going to affect. So you've got a lot of things going on in the marketplace right now. I agree with Danielle. I agree with Danielle's approach. I agree with the fact that we don't really want to trade for a fact, but as things mature, then there's a decision to be made. And again, letting the market ride it out a little bit, see where it settles out instead of reacting. I think that's a wise and conservative approach to short-term money.
And just another FYI, so, we do a lot of institutional type money markets, whether it's prime government, repo government, whatever. And they have very large minimums, some 3 million, 10 million, 50 million, for example. So there is the highest prime AAA money market out there today. I happen to be working with another municipality that was looking at it, was 0.15%. And that's the high that it's been, 0.15%. I looked at it last week, previous discussion, 0.09. So it's going up.
Yeah.
But I'm just, so rates are low in making our own government money market. And that's prime. The government was only 7, and we're making our own government money market here.
Again, you can't look at loss. You've got to look at, easing in and not reacting. Trustee Jamerson, you have a.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I don't have a problem with investing the cash, because I don't think it makes sense to sit on $4 million worth, $4.5 million worth of cash. However, my concern is that if we invest 4 million of that, it's going to leave us with less than $500,000 in cash. Is that not correct?
In your investment account. Now, that's just in your investment account. Remember, this money was all invested at one time.
And you'll have
a different
maturities
checking.
too, Rick. Rick, you'll have maturities too coming up.
Well,
But what
Yes.
is, I think the
I get
question is,
that.
what is the checking account balance?
well, see, my concern is, thank you, Bruce. My concern is that we have enough money to pay the police, and we have enough money to pay our bills as they come along. We got to pay bills to Northbrook for water, which are usually, $40,000 a month, and they will climb over the summer, as we know. So I just want to make sure that I'm not saying we should keep $4.5 million in cash.
Mhm.
I'm just saying I don't want to short us
Right.
so that
No, I
we,
get- I
I know,
understand.
I know that there's ones that are going to come to maturity, but I don't have that information.
I
Other
do.
than within the next year. And I don't need that information. I just want to make sure that, when whatever money we move, that we're going to have enough money to pay our bills. Because
Absolutely.
I'm concerned with having less than $500,000 in the bank with all
Well,
this.
Hal, do you know what I don't look, I can't see your accounts in the bank. I can only see this investment account.
No, but I think in our investment account, I don't think we've ever had less than $500,000 in cash. Just
No.
because of the timing and the decisions, the maturities, the opportunities, we're never have been 100% invested without liquidity. And we'll work with budgets or whatever the village has. We did that when we built the village hall, made cash available. So that's just an ongoing communication. So I respect the question and the fear of that, but historically, we've never been fully invested.
Trustee Hollander.
Maybe a different way of looking at it is to have the amount in cash that we would expect to spend in a 6-month period of time or a 9-month period of time. I don't know the right number, but it seems to me, rather than looking for dollar amount, making the assumption that we should have available to us a certain amount of cash that we would be able to use in case there was a problem. So I use time, whatever we would spend in 6 or 9 months.
And, one other point to make here, having this in treasury bills, if that's what, we decide, very, very liquid, the most liquid asset class. You needed money, Hal called me. We could liquidate $500,000 of the shortest treasury bill. That day, money would be available same day if we did it in the morning. So I'm not saying that's what I want to do, but I'm just saying that
Yeah.
this would be sort of your disaster bucket too,
That's,
you know?
yes, yeah. I wish I could get to a different screen and I could tell you what's in the checking account. Trustee Haber.
I'm going to be a little bit of a contrarian here, just to
ahead.
start some discussion. So it appears to me that there's like a 50 basis point spread between the treasuries and the highest rated corporate. And to have 50% of the investment portfolio in treasuries after you put this $4 million in there would appear to me to be a bit much, and that there should be a better blend and that there should be some more corporates. If JP Morgan Chase goes down, the treasury's going down too.
Mhm.
I mean,
I agree.
too big to fail. It's never going to go down. JP Morgan Chase can't
And
go down. And
I
if you give
totally
up 50
agree.
basis points on that, I think it's too much to
I'm
give up.
just saying, I'm not trying to time the market here, but every single day, spreads have widened on anything not a treasury. So if you've got maturities coming up, you've got the first tranche would be 3 months. So we look at it in 3 months, we look at what's going on, and then, at that point, maybe things will have settled down. We've had massive outflows of funds, okay? So it's been consecutive outflows of bond funds. There's bid wanteds out on the street. And it's just not changing. Now, I agree with you that to purchase other asset classes, we could buy some beautiful Madison, Wisconsin, taxable Madison, Wisconsin, AAA bonds. But in their spread, I sold some New York today that they were beautiful, like over 2%. But again, what are they going to be tomorrow? And that's my only thinking, is that we're just starting this. We have the Fed meeting tomorrow that will give us a glimpse at what they're thinking. We have some of the talks, I guess, whatever, if this Ukraine and Russia talks are gonna be fruitful or not. And then and oil was down today, so the stock market was up 600 points. but that's, we could certainly do other things. I am just thinking of the time we're at, 4 to 5 rate hikes. We're calling for one a meeting and kind of looking at this and then investing as this money comes due. Because we haven't been in this situation for many years,
Right.
that's all.
Yeah, I mean, this portfolio is subject to volatility as well. It's a mark-to-market portfolio, but the success of this portfolio really isn't the rate of return. The success of this portfolio is really principal preservation. And at any point in time, I think that the Treasury, I do think there's probably going to be a flight in the market too. The corporates, just because they're cheap now, you've got more rate hikes coming.
And munis are cheap.
And
Munis are cheap.
yeah.
I just,
So you've got a
interject?
flight going. And so, but success of this portfolio is really preservation of capital. I'm sorry. Huvart.
Yeah,
Sure.
I just want to point out, this is sort of apart from how anybody would parse all the financial outcomes, is that ultimately, as I read the statutes and everything, that this decision is actually Hal's decision, our treasurer. He directs the investments. The board
Mhm.
adopts broad policies, but just so it's clear, we don't actually take a vote of the board to determine how we're going to do these investments. Hal will listen to what all the board thinks, but he's the one who's charged with the responsibility for this. So, don't think that we have to debate this and come to a decision. I think
Right.
we can all listen to what you're all saying, and then you've entrusted Hal to make that decision.
And, one thing, when Hal and I talk and, knowing the statutes of, state statutes of Illinois, I mean, this is exactly, those comparison graphs are exactly what we go over. We take a look at the portfolio. We're like, okay, Hal, we can get this Madison, Wisconsin going out 18 months for 2.25%. And he'll be like, well, that, when's my next maturity? And we'll kind of go, that's what we go through. And we discussed this exact situation, and I just decided, he said, let's just put it out there, just to see what,
And I think that taking what Bruce said and everybody else is, yes, we definitely want opinions because, the village has been involved in this, and I don't think we're that variant, Michael. I think that, realistically, when you look at the opportunity cost or whatever of sitting, and it's not going to be on the sidelines, but of the highest yield to the lowest yield and what might happen in the next 2, 3, 6 months. That's all we're talking about. We're not talking about parking money for 2 years and giving up that yield forever. It's just a matter of seizing the security of a higher yield that will also give us a little bit flexibility over the next few months. So if you take the highest yield to the lowest yield and annualize that with the differential of the period of time we're talking, it's really not that much of a yield return dollar-wise to the village, just to play it a little bit conservative during this time. But your point is well taken. We've never been of the type that would, give up the higher yields if you could foresee and know what the safety factors are within our parameters. So I understand what you're saying, and I think we're on the same page. It's just a matter of the very, very near term versus the next few months to start making some safer decisions.
And one more thing, I am looking at the portfolio now. So there's $760,000 maturing in April. So, that's next month. We have more money coming due, then in June, then in September. So we're laddered to take advantage of this market as well.
Trustee Jamerson.
So I did just look back through various packets, and I found that at the end of December, we had a total of $13.4 million, which I'm assuming 11 million is in the fund, the investment funds.
Mhm.
Yes, Hal, is that true?
Yes.
Roughly. So I'm fine. It sounds like we have $2 million roughly in the bank, which is enough to carry us through. And if things are maturing, then I'm fine with putting $4 million in there, and you guys can do whatever you think is best.
Okay, but I just wanted you to know that we do look at all of these different, everything you can buy. And it's it's just unusual today, you know, where we are with all the geopolitical stuff going on. That's my only point. It feels very unusual or familiar, and not in a good way.
Right. Is there any other discussion? Are there any other questions for our advisors? For our trustee? Treasurers, for our treasurer, sorry.
It's late.
Well, for me, it's late at
Yeah.
10 o'clock in the morning sometimes. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you so very much. We really
Oh, thank
appreciate it.
you.
And I think it's important that the trustees hear and consider, you know, what our investments, what our full financial picture is.
Yeah, and I
really
think it's a
appreciate
good
it.
time, just with what's going on in the markets. I mean, it's
Gonna
a
be
unique time, and it was timely to have this meeting right now, you know? So anyway, thank you so much. We really appreciate your partnership.
Thank you, Danielle.
and Business. Thanks, Hal. Good to see you.
Thank you, Danielle.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, just a note, I'd much rather have this conversation on the light of, well, we've got cash, we want to take advantage of it, rather than we're fully invested and we're nervous. You know, we were there, not within memory of things when you had, you know, people defaulting, and I don't hope that never happens. But I'd rather be in the position we're in now, and we're all very sensitive to making this work and getting a better yield. And now we can finally get a better yield. For years, we've almost snickered at the yields. Now it might be real money for us. So I appreciate everybody's input. and
Okay,
it's
thanks,
definitely heard.
guys.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Danielle.
Danielle.
And Hal, I want to thank you for your work too. It does take some thought. It's a very heavy responsibility. So I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Glad to do it.
Are there any other questions for our treasurer? Okay, moving on to the next item on our report, the Director of Community Services report. Russ, do you have anything for us this evening?
Sure, just a couple quick things, boring stuff, not as good as money. I talked with Luke this afternoon. He sent me his report. They had 68 people schedule tree removal from our hazardous tree survey, and 62 of them are now completed. He will get the other 6 done probably in the next week, he said. Then he will start on ours. He's already got us programmed for 2 or 3 days next week to start on doing the village's hazardous trees. And right now he says he should be on schedule to finish up with what is scheduled by the end of April, like we've asked. So moving along at this point in time.
Yeah.
Just for information, Lakeland started yesterday putting in the new upgrades for our HVAC system. So he'll probably be working there this week, putting the stuff together, and hopefully we'll get that going before the summertime and have everything ready for when we meet back in person again. And also I talked with Al Hirsch. He is our HVAC, the maintenance person that does all of our filters and the furnaces themselves specifically. And we are now we have the, what do you want to say it, the best filters that our furnace system can hold for the COVID stuff. They've got all these new filters out with different things that were supposedly supposed to take all the germs out of the air and stuff. Well, the real big stuff that costs a lot of money, our furnaces and most furnaces can't handle. The police department are ours because we don't have the power. It would drive down the operating of the furnaces. But we've got the best that we can put in there. And we also have automatic dampener systems and fresh air systems. So when we go back in, we will be able to exchange the air and get the fresh air in from the outside as needed. So I know Bruce had asked a question about that. So I checked with him, and he said right now we are running as efficiently as we can to hopefully make everybody comfortable when we go back in person.
Okay, I think, if I can interrupt, please, I think trustee Eastman had a comment earlier.
Sure, yeah, my question was, as far as the village tree removal, about what percentage, just roughly, of people took advantage of the village tree removal versus doing it themselves?
No, I think the last time I looked at it, it was about between 35 and 40%.
Okay, so that's something that's of real use, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
You know,
great.
we've done this in the past, and you know, I would say we were probably lucky to get 10 to 15% of people. And we didn't have this type of system before. We left it up to the people to do it, and it just kind of got lost and put on the wayside. And this time,
Oh, that's great. Then it was worth doing it, right?
yeah, I've stayed on top of it, and I've been in constant communication with him, and he's been great about it. And actually, I mean, we've had great weather. I mean, you know, no one's expected this type of weather, so he hasn't had
No,
to
it's
fight
true.
the cold and the snow and everything else. So he's happy himself because he's doing it a lot quicker than he thought he was going to be able
Sure.
to.
Well, great. Good to hear.
And last thing I wanted to let you know, though, we have a new home come in. So that makes 3 new homes that have come in this year so far. So we got another one that's over on 1 Meredith. With that piece of property, had a house burned down years ago. So I've been talking with this person for about the last 4 or 5 months, and they finally decided they're going to build a house there. So we just started the process. So I gave Chris the plans, I think it was yesterday, and Steve Zimmerman's got the Woodland plan. So hopefully we'll get the stuff reviewed, and we'll get them building in next month, 6 weeks. So we're starting to see some turnaround here with the building, which is kind of nice.
I think somebody else had another comment earlier. I want to say trustee Clayton or trustee
Who?
Howard. No, okay. I didn't want to miss anybody. Sorry.
Okay. And I would apologize. I lost my screen. I have my screen's going to get fixed hopefully tomorrow with my computer guy. So I'm going to take it there. But if nobody has any questions for me, I'm going to leave the meeting. My wife had surgery, and I'm being the nursemaid here for the next few days. So I'm going to go take care of her.
Okay. Well, thank you for
Okay.
staying on. Thank you.
No problem. Have a
Thank
good one.
you. Talk
Take
to you
care.
later, Russ. Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's move on to the consultant's report, the attorney's report, please.
The main development that I wanted to share with the board was that, and I don't know, Henry, if I'm stealing your thunder later, if you were already going to report on this, we had a communication with the developer of the 37 acres in which we informed them that we thought that a fulfillment center with the heavy traffic that they were projecting coming to Deerfield Road was not going to fly. And a more standard type of industrial use would be something we could look at, but the board wanted to have a specific use identified for us to consider, and not just enter into a rezoning of property for any kind of general industrial use before we knew what was going to be proposed. I mean, maybe some kind of tech incubation center they talked about, or some other smaller manufacturing use would have a much lower traffic count. So we prepared a communication to the Developers Council about that. And I don't think we've heard anything back from them since on the topic. So as of now, nothing is scheduled for that project with the Plan Commission in April. I don't have any further news to report to you on that. I think they're probably trying to recalibrate and decide what they want to do.
Any question, trustee Hollander?
Yeah, the only addition I would add to that is that I suggested that they take another look at residential with a possible commercial strip along Milwaukee. They were concerned as to density, but I used the Federal Life property density as a possibility to compare it to the 37 acres, and they may or may not go ahead and take another run at residential use of that property.
Are there any questions? Any comments? Do you have anything more for us this evening?
That's all.
Carissa, do you have anything for us this evening? Our village engineer report, please.
Good evening. Just a couple updates on the utility operations forefront. I know that several members of our operation team was at Village Holiday to go over utility billing and the meters. We're also going to start doing some more inventory on the E1s and with HT Stringer. So we're continuing that forefront with the operations side of it. Engineering wise, I don't think we have anything major to report, just the as Russ mentioned, the one plan that came in for review. And I think that's about it for right now.
Are there any questions for our village engineer? Okay, seeing none, colleges, there's no report there. Plan commission.
Chris,
Oh,
Chris?
I'm sorry, trustee Clayton.
Before you leave the ecologist, it's been quite some time since I've seen Steve or heard from him, and I'm wondering if you think it would be appropriate for him to kind of give us an ecological overview of where the village sits right at this point at some future
Sure.
meeting.
I've asked him to attend at least, one of our meetings a month already. So I will ask him if he can provide an update and an overview. Is that in keeping?
Yeah, more in my opinion, or what I would be looking for, more than just how many consulting things he's made, but more of a general assessment of the state of the village at this particular point.
That's a good thought. Yeah. Making a note. I will ask him to do so. David Schimper.
Comment. It may be, to Mike's point, it may be a little bit early in the spring for Steve to really give us an accurate or effective feedback on the current ecology. You might want to wait a little bit to see what survived the winter.
I'll ask him and we'll get a response on that. If it isn't timely, maybe a month would make a difference. He will be at the Village Cleanup Day on May 14th. So we've been in touch with him about that as well. Any other comments or questions on that? Okay, Chairman Brightcoff, do you have a Plan Commission report?
I have a report, which is that I have no report. I have nothing to report.
Pluses and minuses, right?
Mhm.
Are there any questions for our Plan Commission Chair? Okay, moving on, the Zoning Board of Appeals did not meet. Police report, please.
The police activity year to date in comparison to the previous 2 years. That's in the board packet, and then everything else I have is later in the meeting.
Okie dokie. Trustee Jamerson.
Just a quick question, Bruce. I was looking at the report and I noticed that the traffic stops this year are about a little less than half of last year and more than half of the 2020. And I'm just curious if there's a reason why we haven't had as many traffic stops.
Well, when we were doing administrative hearing, we were writing certain tickets to admin hearing. There was one officer who was quite aggressive with expired registrations, and since we're not writing those for administrative hearing anymore, he's cut down on his stops with those. He's still one of our bigger ticket writers, but he doesn't make nearly as many of those registration stops as he used to.
Okay, thanks.
Wouldn't you say that maybe people have, been updating their registrations too?
That might have a lot to do with it too, but he's not stopping nearly as many as he was for that violation.
Well, and unfortunately, the state of Illinois, whether it's a supply chain issue or not, the old stickers that put on the plates used to have the month and the year that they expire. Now they just have the year. So yeah. Now trying to pull people over for that is a crapshoot.
Right. I don't know why they did that. We were notified that they were doing that for 2023, and we're seeing them on the street now, obviously, and I have no idea why they did that.
Wow.
What I heard is probably urban legend, but they forgot to order the right stickers and they're the right stuff, and so they couldn't make their own. Whether it's true or not, I don't know.
I'd go with it. Are there any other comments or questions for our chief? Okay, information items and comments from the president. I just want to note that the official revision of the village's zoning map has been placed on file with the village. So if anybody wants a copy of our zoning map, call in. Trustee Hollander.
Why don't you send it out to all the trustees? The PDF.
Okay. Trustee Dickon.
Yeah, we should add this to the website.
Okay. Are there any other comments? Big desire for the zoning map. All right, moving on to new business. Oh, I'm sorry. Visitors wishing to address the board. Chief, did we get any emails?
That would be Katie.
I'm monitoring it, and we didn't receive any questions or comments.
Okay, those people who have tuned in tonight, if there's anybody wishing to make a, oh, David Schimberg, please.
I have a question for our village engineer. There are a number of potholes on the on the Juneberry and on the Thorn Meadow apron that connects to Deerfield Road. Have we communicated to Lake County that they need to look into those and resolve those?
Yes, we have sent all the concerned areas over to Lake Dot. We physically talked to someone over there and they said that they were going to put it on their next scheduled run. So
Okay.
we're going to monitor it, and if they don't, then obviously we'll follow back up with them.
Thank you.
So just a clarification on that, David, I did send the communication to Carissa, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, whatever it was, Carissa. And Lake County came out almost immediately and patched the 2 potholes on Deerfield Road, which are about 100 feet away from the apron at Juneberry, and they didn't bother patching any of those. So I was going to communicate that back to Carissa because she did ask me if they were patched, and I never got back to her. So the ones on the aprons are not patched.
Yeah, and it's Rick, it's a little bit more serious too, because it looks like Deerfield Road is separating from the apron. So you've got a 6-inch kind of separation that's happening now between, Deerfield Road and Thorn Meadow, for example, parallel to Deerfield Road. And that should be very clear and obvious to them.
Okay, yeah, that's not happening in Juneberry, but I didn't, and I don't go down Thorn Meadow, so I can take a look at that, or Carissa can send somebody out one way or the other.
Trustee Eastman.
I just add on to what Dave said, another pothole that's getting particularly bad, and I think I had mentioned this to Mayor Ford in the fall, and I think it was too late for them to do anything about it, is when you go on Portwine and you're in the left-hand turn lane turning onto Lake Cook. There's a big, huge crack in the road, and then there's by where the pad is where you would turn left, there's an expanding pothole there. And I think there was some issue with it being close to the pad, but that's something now that, we're getting into the season where we can fix that. That one's getting to be where it, is starting to get to be hazardous.
Yeah, if I recall that correctly, it's because that's a county.
Yeah, it was a county. That's
county
what I
issue.
remember you were saying.
Well,
Yeah.
that may be Cook County's, Lake Cook is Cook
May,
County. So-
well, I don't know. Yeah.
But
Is that on Lake Cook Road?
no, it's on Portwine.
It's on Portwine right before you turn onto Lake Cook. So it is on Portwine.
The issue there is, and I go by there every day, the issue there is that it's the sensing loop for the traffic signal. The wires are exposed now. I mean, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger because every time water
and
gets
that's
in
why
there, it freezes and it pops. And
I drive that every day too, and I keep thinking, I'm like, at a certain point, it's going to get really big.
Okay, we'll try to revisit that. I'm not sure where or how, but we'll revisit it. Carissa, do you have any sense of that?
Yeah, so
Okay.
we'll put those on a list and we'll go out and inspect them. And if they're within the county jurisdiction, we'll coordinate with the county. If it's within the village jurisdiction, the county is going to turn back to the village, and we can look into doing some sort of patch repairs on the roads.
yeah, the issue is going to be if that is the active traffic loop, because there's several of them at that intersection, and I don't know which one's actually the one that's working. But if it's the active traffic loop, then you're going to have to get the traffic people out there to rework the loop, and it's more than just putting some asphalt or concrete in a hole.
But that's Cook County who maintains the traffic lights on Lake Cook Road.
That's where it gets messy, Bruce.
Yeah, that's why I said it.
Right. If we communicate though with Lake County, obviously Lake and Cook County, they have to kind of be friends on Lake Cook Road. So therefore getting their jurisdiction involved and pushing for it gets Cook County a little bit more aware of it than just anyone giving them a call. But I'd be more willing to create a list and then reaching out to the county, trying to have them tackle what's their responsibility and taking it back here to the village and figuring out how we can address them, at least short term for right now, just due to the fluctuating weather. Things are going to pop, and obviously we can't really do anything permanent until the spring has kind of fully been in bloom here.
Anything more? Okay, other visitors wishing to address the board, if you want to do that now, please make yourself known. Okay, moving on, comments from, oh, I'm sorry, I already did that. I already commented. New business, please. First item of business is the appropriation ordinance for fiscal year ending December 31. We had our hearing, and does anybody wish to make a motion?
I move that we approve the appropriation ordinance for fiscal year ending December 31st, 2022.
As modified in the MFT for the $200,000 from what's in the packet, please.
As modified for the $200,000 in the MFT from what's in the packet, as we discussed earlier.
Okay.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Henry, thank you. Is there any further discussion on the appropriations ordinance? You're muted, Attorney Hoover.
Should be a motion to waive first reading.
Okay, this should be a motion to waive first reading. You know, I need
a thing. It's a thing.
flashcards. It's a thing. It's a thing.
That's
Okay.
why you have me here.
Thank you so much, but don't just stay unmuted if you don't mind. Well, pretty soon you'll be next to me. I can just get the elbow or the, okay, that was for first reading. So roll call, please.
Trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander,
Aye.
trustee Jamerson,
Aye.
trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickens,
Aye.
trustee Eastman.
Aye.
Okay, do I have a motion for the second reading and approval?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Roll call, please.
Trustee Hollander,
Aye.
trustee Jamerson,
Aye.
trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickens,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
and trustee Haber.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay,
Is
ordinance.
there an ordinance number, please?
It's 220305.
Thank you.
Okay, second item of business is the approval of LED lighting in the police department building. Chief, would you like to take the lead on this, please?
I might be having some technical difficulties here. My computer's plugged in, but it says I'm running low, so hopefully I won't die out before
Okay,
before I'm finished.
talk fast.
Yeah, so the police department was built in 2010 with T8 fluorescent tube lighting fixtures, which at the time were, I believe, considered efficient from what I'm being told. We don't pay for ComEd for electric service, but switching over to LEDs would provide better lighting. They'd be greener, and they'd be approximately 70% higher efficiency. They contain no mercury, as the current lighting does, is what I'm told. And they would last approximately 70,000 hours compared to 35 to 40,000 hours that our current lights provide. So we have two quotes, one for the inside of the building and one for the outside of the building, which includes the garage and the pole lighting. The total quote is for $19,690.50, but the company that gave us the quote has also worked with ComEd to get ComEd funding for us, should we choose to move forward. So with the ComEd grant would cover $9,343.50, and the remaining cost to the village would be $10,346. So that's my presentation on that.
Okay. Trustee Haber, please.
I'm going to defer to trustee Jamerson because I assume he knows about whether or not this makes sense to do, even though we don't have a cost recovery because we don't pay any cost to ComEd.
Yeah, Bruce and I talked about this. He passed it by me when they first presented it to him. We don't have any costs, so the payback is, infinite. But there are some existing costs that we won't have to do: maintenance of the fixtures, changing bulbs, changing ballasts. As Bruce said, the bulbs technically are hazardous waste because they contain mercury, so they have to be disposed of properly. Originally I thought it was too much, but I did reach out to some of our vendors that do this same thing. I can't do the work, obviously, because it's a conflict of interest, but they said the pricing was right in line. There's no secret to how these ComEd rebates are done. I will say that ComEd has a pot of money every year that they have to spend for this type of work. And typically what happens is they put in the company that we're working with, that Bruce is working with, will put in a request to get the rebate. And ComEd may come back and say they don't have money this time around because they've spent it all, and we may have to wait until they open it back up, typically, which happens in June. So I don't know if they explained that to you, Bruce, or not, but that's typically the way these rebate systems work. So I think it's worth doing. I think it's environmentally friendly. We will be using less electricity, even though we don't pay for it. So I think it's worth the money. But I would just caution us that if we're not, we need to make sure we get the rebate. Otherwise it still makes sense, but it doesn't make as much sense. So
I received notice the other day that we were approved for the rebate. Should we move forward?
Perfect. Then I think I don't have a problem with it. I think it's a good thing to do. It will make the building more efficient and probably easier for the police to work in it. The lighting is better overall.
I move that we approve the police department purchase of the LED lighting.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickens,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander,
You're
and trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, it's approved. Next item is old business, approval of donation. I did get back to the Deerfield Parents Network and asked for more information. I asked them to fill out the form, and unfortunately, I have not gotten a signed form returned to me in time for a look at this, for us to discuss this at this meeting. However, I did report to you last time that our contribution was $500. It was not, it was $1,000. So once I get these signed documents from the Deerfield Parents Network, I will bring it back to the board. So if there are any questions, trustee Jamerson?
I think that the question that was asked last time, and I think it was trustee trustee Haber, correct me if I'm wrong, was not only, all the paperwork, but why do they have such a large cash balance? It seemed they carried a cash balance from year to year. Was that not what I remember?
That's exactly what you remember. And that was right. And I think
Although it wasn't me, though.
it was trustee Clayton, if I remember right, in my notes.
Sorry.
So It's okay. I'm sure you all have the same interest.
You were
know,
half right.
What's going on? So once I get all of that in order, you will see it again. I did ask the cash question. I got some semi-interesting cash flow kinds of papers back. So I will, again, I will make that part of the packet that you get. But I did think asking for a signed donation application was important. So I'll bring that back when and if we get all of that completed for you. There's no reason to go into executive session at this meeting. Comments from the board. Are there any comments from any of the trustees on things that were not on the agenda that you just simply want to bring out? Okay, seeing no further comment. We have our next meeting on April 5th at 7:30, and it looks to be in person. The microphones in the boardroom are being worked on, and hopefully there's a training session tomorrow, and we will have everything in place for our in-person meeting. If there is any change, you will hear about it just as soon as I know. So having said that, is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
No discussion. Roll call, please.
Trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander,
Aye.
and trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Well, I'm sorry to see our virtual meetings end. I kind of like looking at all of you in the same place. I can see when people want to speak. It's going to be a stretch to lean over and look down the aisles. So nice seeing you.
Maybe we get little flags or something that we could wave when we want to talk.
Everybody gets a mallet.
Night, everyone.
Good night.
Okay, good night, everybody.